It's time!
All right. What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by the man himself, Tom. Tom, how are you this fine Sunday evening?
Doing well. Wouldn't be a start to the show if there wasn't some sort of weird technical camera cut, blooper reel sort of effect. So good to be back. We typically do well whenever we fuck up within the first 30 seconds of the show starting. So happy first week of football to you, sir. It was less than perfect for me.
Yeah, I mean, my Giants actually pulled out a W today. Somehow, by the skin of their teeth, down early in that game. Brought it all the way back, I think, and then the Titans missed a field goal at the end of that game. Won it like 21-20. Fantasy teams looking good, but also last night we had UFC 279, and that was a lot of fun. It's enjoyable seeing Nate Diaz have fun up there and get on the press conference stage afterwards and just joke around, laugh, and give everybody some memorable moments on his way out of the door. More importantly, though, what did you think of those fights, Tom?
I thought they were great, especially with the way that they got jumbled up. And I went live right on our channel real quick. Basically, as soon as they got announced, or probably a little bit even before that, just to run through. And at the end of the day, I didn't know if I saw Tony Ferguson getting choked out, but I mean, we've seen his chin and his performances slowly deteriorate, right? And then he had a good showing against Michael Chandler, which ended in him getting a vicious knockout. And then it wasn't at any point really a great showing for him. His face wore much more of the damage than Nate Diaz's did. So, maybe all the years of taking damage himself in those wars in which he was getting the worst, or I guess he wasn't getting the worst end of the visible damage in those fights, but he was still getting landed on in those back and forth wars. It's starting to show for him. And Nate Diaz, for whatever reason, past few fights has come out with very limited blood. So who would have thought that Tony Ferguson would be the guy messed up? Nevertheless, Tony now getting subbed. He's gotten KO'd recently. He's having the quick turnarounds. Can't find a home at 70 or 55. Nate even himself said he wasn't really even training for this fight, so to come in and, granted Tony Ferguson was on a short notice, but didn't look like, at least Nate said, he wasn't doing much training. So got to figure it probably is about time for El Cucuy, what do you say?
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can keep giving him these veterans fights. We've talked about this before, and we've seen other people talking about it on social media. But, the veterans fights, the Legends League, whatever they want to call it, maybe start setting those up with these guys. That's kind of what last night was between Tony and Nate. I could see Tony fighting other old guys, but he's definitely not the contender that he was even like 2 years ago. So it's sad to see. But it is what it is, man. This is the life cycle, and father time comes for us all eventually. So, going forward, we'll see what's next for Tony Ferguson. And I look forward to seeing what's next for Nate Diaz as well, because he hinted towards some interesting things, talking about going over to another sport and owning it over there. Talking about his buddy McGregor and how he tried to go, hinting at a whole bunch of new interesting things. Potential return to the UFC. I'm excited to see what the future is for Nate Diaz. And not that last night was like, a crazy like barn burner of a fight, but if you're a Nate fan, you like him because he's a vet. He did have some of those barn burners back in the day. One of my favorites is when he fought Cowboy. And it's the personality that you like about him too if you're a fan. So, just wishing continued success for both of those guys and everybody on that card too. Hamzat letting some weird stuff slip out, seeming like, he was trying to allude to the fact that maybe the UFC wanted him to miss weight. I don't know if you caught that as well, Tom. He got called for a private meeting after the press conference last night. Basically, he was talking about how the doctor came to him and told him he had to stop cutting weight. And then almost immediately after had like a private meeting with Dana White. His coaches weren't allowed in. Nobody was allowed in with him. It was just Hamzat and Dana. So, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I don't necessarily believe that. The UFC is not the WWE. But it does give a little bit of, fire for those.
Gives a little bit of pause.
Yeah. conspiracy theorists are running wild out there. But
It's fun. It's fun to think about. I mean, I don't know. I think that would be who knows? I mean, even if they did, it worked out good for them. That like it's only a conspiracy theory. That's far fetched. If they were able to concoct it, in such a way that people don't expect that's a far fetched theory. It's labeled conspiracy. Hey, good for them.
Yeah.
It ended up we got the better fights, the better night of fights. So
absolutely. Well, that's enough about UFC 279. We are going to ask you, like we always do, to please subscribe, like, and comment. If you comment down below in the chat, like our friend Patrick just did, actually, he was here early. Early crew checking in the chat. Hell yeah, Patrick. Check out his channel, Addicted to Combat. And what's up, Pat? But yeah, I mean, that really helps us out. And if you comment and you leave us some stuff in the chat, we will almost always respond to you live on here. And if you like and you subscribe, it really helps us out big time. We really appreciate the support. Follow us on our social medias for the big team @_Pickin winners. We got the football guys, the lacrosse guys. You can listen to us on Spotify as well. If you can't watch this in the car, if you can't watch this and you want to just like listen in the car or at the gym, you can listen on Spotify. And just leave us comments. We love to interact with everybody. All of our friends and friends, supporters, everybody else out there. Really, really appreciate it. Personal Twitters, I can never do that right. It's always flipped. Personal Twitter's down there. Give us a follow and interact with us on Twitter as well. All right. With all that being said, we have UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Song, which I keep trying to not say Yadong just because, the Chinese fighters, their last names are in the front. So technically, yeah, it's Sandhagen versus Song, but to me and most other fans, it's Song Yadong. But anyways, kicking it off like we always do with our prelim notables. I just got one this week that I'm feeling pretty good about, and that is Trevin Giles. He's coming in there this week against Louis Kosei. And this is a fight, I'm sort of looking forward to. Kosei is still relatively new to the UFC, whereas Giles has been around the block at this point. In his last fight, Kosei was dominating Palatnikov in his UFC debut, but Palatnikov mounted a wild comeback and TKO'd Kosei in the third round. Big reason for that was Kosei's gas tank in that fight, because prior to the Palatnikov fight, all of Kosei's fights had been first round wins, mostly first round knockouts, all of them actually. So Giles has the power to win and end the fight early. But if he doesn't, he has gone a full 15 plenty of times and can outlast Kosei to a decision win or pull something off similar to Palatnikov, where, it's a little bit, Palatnikov was being dominated, but let's say it's neck and neck between Giles and Kosei coming up this Saturday. Could totally see, Kosei just fading in the second, midway through the second, starting to really just, loses stamina in the third round. And here comes Trevin Giles with a big shot to the face that TKO and, to some ground and pound for a TKO victory over Louis Kosei. So going with Trevin Giles as my prelim lock this week. What do you think about that one, Tom? And give us some of yours.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm telling you, I'm going with Trevin Giles over Louis Kosei. Another one that I'm looking at is Damon Jackson and Pat Sabatini. Damon Jackson, he's a good grappler. He's a good striker, but he's not great at either particular area. I would say that grappling is more of his strength. He does well in scrambles, and he's more opportunistic than technical. So he's going to land in those scrambles and in those changing of positions. He's going to be opportunistic and can land it and cinch up some submissions in there. He also does well in the feet, particularly in boxing exchanges. As for Pat Sabatini, when it comes to the striking battle, I would say he's probably he's not going to be the better striker in this matchup here, but he does possess the better wrestling ability. He can stand and strike sometimes, but again, he doesn't mix in the styles very well. He commits too much to the wrestling, and his opponents can know that he's committing and going for that takedown. But the problem is can they stop it? And I think because he's going to be the better grappler here, he's going to be able to find David Jackson on the ground, and because he's more technical and more powerful, I think he is going to be able to win the grappling exchanges. And because it's going to be grappler against grappler, I think his heavy pressure is going to get the win here. He also has good activity on the ground as well. So I think the activity and the heavy pressure is going to be enough to power Pat Sabatini to a win over Damon Jackson.
Like it. I like it a lot. Give us another one, Tom.
The other one that I was looking at is Trey Ogden over Daniel Zellhuber. Trey Ogden is an athletic guy. He is a grappler by trade. He has decent power, but grappling is definitely his better area. When he is using his stand-up, he is more of a club and sub guys. He can drop guys and then use his grappling ability and submission to finish them once they're on the ground. Also, he is very good at timing his takedowns using blast doubles, waiting for guys to throw and be outside of themselves and sweep in and take them down. So I like Trey Ogden in that regard, but when it comes to Daniel Zellhuber, he's just an impressive striker with a really dynamic style. He's got very long limbs, and I think that's something that, at least for me, I like a lot when it comes to guys who are strikers and even grapplers. You know, having that long ability, and I know I would say Kevin Holland possesses it, and I think why he's been successful at 170 is because he's strong, and if he can defend the takedown. Now, we didn't see it much against Khamzat Chimaev, but I don't think we're seeing many people defend the takedown well against Khamzat Chimaev. Also, but what I was saying, I think what makes Daniel Zellhuber so impressive is the long range and that he can hit you and get away. And if he's throwing from a lot of different areas and positions, it just makes it really hard to defend if you're on the opposite side of it. And then if it comes to the jiu-jitsu aspect and the ground game, having the long limbs to lock up submissions is definitely a plus and an advantage. So for all those reasons, I'm going to like Daniel Zellhuber. I think he's the better striker. He uses his length well. And if it goes to the ground, he's going to be able to handle himself because of the length of his limbs. So those are all of the prelim locks, prelim notables that I got.
Love it. I like those picks a lot, man. Probably going to tail you on those. I like the Pat Sabatini pick a little bit more, but and Patrick said it too. That's going to be a great, fun fight. And also, this is a great card for the hardcore MMA fans. I mean, I like the sad emoji in there. I totally agree with you on that. But it is a good one for a week before a week off. And with that being said, we can dive into the main card now, since those are our prelim notables. Keeping it short and sweet for all you kind people at home watching this right now. So to open it up, we got Andre Touchy Fili versus Bill Algeo. And I'm going with Bill Algeo. A couple good reasons here. He's got good takedown defense. He's got really good striking defense. He's a solid counter striker. There are times when Algeo gets taken down and he pops right back up to his feet. So really intelligent defensive fighter. He likes to sit back a little bit more and bait opponents in before stringing a combination together. Doesn't get in there super wild, expend his gas tank, and doesn't make any mistakes that really leave his chin hanging out there to get punched. And then, you look at Andre Fili. He hasn't had a win in a while. Unfortunately, he is a cool guy. I like Touchy Fili, but he doesn't look like he has the fire that he used to have. I think Algeo is going to get the win intelligently. Don't know if it's going to be via finish or, if it's going to be a decision. But, just the way that he sits back and, he's just a smarter man this week. He is a very intelligent fighter, and very defensive. And looking forward to seeing because when he does sit back and string those combinations together, they can be somewhat entertaining too. He's not like a boring counter striker like we're starting to see some guys these days. He's still exciting. Switches up what he does a lot in those sorts of situations. So, Tom, who do you got for this fight?
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell you on that one. I'm going to go with Bill Algeo. When it comes to Andre Touchy Fili, I think he's very well-rounded, but he hasn't really lived up to the hype that was surrounding him when he was first coming into the UFC and first on his upswing. He has had some pretty difficult competition. You go back, I know he got knocked out recently by Joe Anderson Brito, but up until then, when his chin was holding up, he had the accidental eye poke situation with Daniel Pineda. He had the loss to Bryce Mitchell, but Bryce Mitchell is undefeated, and Bryce Mitchell has shown that he could be a force to be reckoned with. He had the split decision win over Charles Jourdain and, a loss to Sadiq Youssef. So definitely a good level of competition for Andre Touchy Fili. He's got good technical striking. He's got good grappling. And like I said, his chin has historically held up when he gets into back and forth exchanges. But recently, we haven't seen that. Is that going to be a permanent cracking of his chin, or is he going to be able to come back and put it together and get back on the right track? When it comes to Bill Algeo, he's a fast-paced striker. He has low hands and kind of like a karate style almost. He has very high output, pretty decent defense when it comes to standing, but he likes to throw back and forth. He likes a good standing war. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he has great cardio. He pretty much embarrassed Herbert Burns, but at the end of the day, it's Herbert Burns and not Gilbert Burns. So I don't know how much we can really put into that, that win and that showing. But at the end of the day, to go out there and at the level of the UFC, to put on that level of competition over against anybody who's, in the promotion is still something to be proud of. I think ultimately Algeo's pressure and pace and his chin is going to be able to get him the win here over Andre Fili.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot. I like the pick a lot. I think that's a really solid pick for this week. Looking forward to seeing what the odds are, because right now on Tapology, not seeing them. Could look up best fight odds, but we'll save that for later. So next up, we've got Joseph Pyfer, cool nickname, Body Bags with a Z at the end of it, against Alen Amedovski, and going with Joe Pyfer here. He is, pretty entertaining new prospect. This is his debut. He was out there on the Contender Series, made a couple rounds around there before he got his contract. But, you look at this guy, Amedovski, right? He's been around the block. And it looks like lately, because his last fight he caught an L to Ugly Man Joe Holmes. It makes you wonder if Amedovski is going to be one of these guys that they use to, make the Contender Series guys look really good. And Pyfer, he's got strong hands, good record to him. Faced some interesting competition in the past. Like, he does have a loss to Dustin Stoltzfus from early on in his career. I believe that was at Combat. What was that promotion? I'll tell you in a sec. Ring of Combat. Actually, that was on the Contender Series. But anyways, he's fought decent competition along the way. Nobody too crazy, but I don't think Alen Amedovski is too big of a challenge for him. Joseph Pyfer looked pretty good on the Contender Series. Strong hands, intelligent fighter. And it's, one of those boxing setups that we're starting to see more out of the UFC when they're trying to promote a new guy. So I'm going with Joseph Pyfer here. Who do you got for us today, Tom?
I'm going to have to tell you on that as well. Alen Amedovski, he is on a 3-fight skid here. 34 years old, really hard to turn. I mean, once you start going on that skid, as we're seeing with guys like Tony Ferguson, really hard to turn that around. His last fight 3 months ago against Joseph Holmes, where he got submitted, that was his first fight back in, a few years. And I remember he didn't look terrible in that fight until Joseph Holmes eventually wrapped up the rear naked choke. But I could be misremembering that. At the end of the day, I think Pyfer is a guy who hits very hard. He uses his pressure to break people, and he prefers to stand and bang. But he does have the ground game as a backup if he has to go there. I like Joe a lot because he's been active. He's shown a much better all around game, and I think for Alen Amedovski taking the 2 years off or almost 3 years off since between his last fight and the fight before that. I think it's really hard to get the gears going again, at the age of 34 now. Once you start on that skid, I don't know. I like Joseph Pyfer a lot. And then looking at the guys at Tapology, 556 votes, 94% are on Joe Pyfer, 6% on Alen Amedovski. A large percentage of that, 87% of those folks on Pyfer are going by knockout here. So, Tapology agrees, I agree. And then one thing I wanted to bring up is looking at the Andre Fili and Bill Algeo fight. Bill Algeo plus 110. You can get him, so for plus money right now. I would hit that because I think there's a strong chance that once the week starts going, that's going to turn around and you're going to see Bill Algeo probably be the favorite there as well.
Yeah, there's no way we're the only ones picking Bill Algeo in that fight. But plus 110, that's great. If you get him on a little bit of dog money, that's really, really solid. So yeah, I like the Pyfer pick there. We'll move up to the next fight on this card, which is Tanner Boser versus Rodrigo Nascimento. And I'm personally going with Tanner Boser in this one. I know we were talking about it beforehand, before we came on. And this is probably one of the tougher fights to pick on this card because, you have Tanner Boser, who he's without a doubt fought the better competition out of the two men. He's really fought the who's who of the heavyweight division at this point. Not that it's a super stacked division at the moment, but he's fought all the names in there. And Rodrigo, on the other hand, hasn't fought the same level of competition. These guys are similar in age, and then Rodrigo is quite a bit heavier. He's got almost a 6-inch reach advantage over Tanner Boser. So there is a little bit of a size differential there. Both guys are the same height, but I'm going with Tanner Boser just because the experience level. He's got a solid chin. He's gone 15 minutes with a lot of guys that we're seeing knock guys out. Like he's gone 15 minutes with Sandhagen. He's gone 15 minutes with Andrei Arlovsky, which, Andrei Arlovsky is a little bit older. That was 2 years ago, but, still a former champ, impressive. Outside of that, OSP, good win over OSP, even though this is an older OSP at this point. But I do like Tanner Boser here. I think he's potentially the stronger of the two guys, despite being a little bit smaller in size, weight-wise and everything, weight-wise, reach. But I like Tanner Boser for, one of these like mid-tier heavyweights. You put him in there against some of these lower-tier heavyweights, that he's going to pull out the W. Don't know. I mean, Rodrigo, he hasn't really fought the level of competition yet. So maybe this is like a little bit more of a coming out party for Rodrigo. He's got a really good physique. He's heavy, but he's lean. Looks to be pretty athletic, moves around quite a bit for a heavyweight. Tanner Boser is a little bit more stationary in there. So looking forward to seeing what happens in this one. Not one that I'm going to lay any money on, actually, but, it's picking fights. We pick fights, and I'm picking Tanner Boser. So who do you got? You got Rodrigo or you got Tanner Boser?
So Tanner Boser is a guy who I think he has pretty decent hands. He has pretty decent power, but overall, when it comes to the UFC heavyweight division, he's often the smaller guy. And in this matchup, coming in at 6'2", he's going to have a 4.5-inch reach disadvantage. And he's also, 240 pounds when he weighs in. Rodrigo Nascimento, 259, weighing in last. So he's usually the smaller guy, and because of that, he can be pushed around at times. He doesn't have the best record, but he also has fought for some pretty good competition. He had, 2 losses to Andrei Arlovsky and Ilir Latifi, and then he turned around and fought OSP. And I think that one he was like pretty pissed, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not feeling crushed or whatever." He was on Twitter and he was calling for a fight and a quick turnaround. I think he had a really bad performance against Ilir Latifi, and he didn't want that to sit. But turned around and was ready to, if he lost to OSP, he'd be on a 3-fight losing streak. He took it on short notice. He was ready to be cut, basically, if he lost. When there had a good performance against OSP, who's really been struggling to have a good performance for himself. But that's a little bit about Tanner Boser. When I look at or think about Rodrigo Nascimento, he's an aggressive striker, but he also is a solid submission guy. He should definitely use his grappling here. I think that's where he's going to have a giant edge in this matchup. He's had some substance issues in the past, but his path to victory is, like I said, 100% grappling. He's definitely big for the weight class. He's a submission-heavy guy. He has the long arms and reach. He's going to have the weight and the size, and because it's his advantage just technically and skill-wise, I like Rodrigo Nascimento a lot against Tanner Boser here. And then looking at the odds here, Rodrigo Nascimento plus 150, plus 160. But the thing is a lot of those, they started at plus 180 or plus 185, and now trending in the right direction, I think, trending a little bit closer to even. So, listen, Tanner's a smaller guy. He's been bullied in the pack. Nascimento is a big guy and usually does the bullying. He's got better technically when it comes to grappling, strength, size. I think maybe Tanner Boser can use his footwork to outmaneuver and stay on the outside and strike with Nascimento. But at the end of the day, I just feel a little bit more confident in Nascimento, especially when you go for the fact that you can make money with him as opposed to, potentially lose some with Tanner Boser. I like the Nascimento, especially for the plus money.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Sound logic there. The submissions are huge. And you brought it up before with, I believe it was, Sunday Scaries hitting hard. Zellhuber. And, talking about those longer limbs and, the fight between Ogden and Zellhuber and, how that can affect your submission game and your grappling. And I think that'll definitely, apply a little bit for Rodrigo here this week with those long arms that he has. So next up, we've got Chidi Njokuani versus Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues. This is another one I'm torn on. Both strong guys, both pretty good strikers, both 4-1 out of their last 5, stringing together some decent win streaks and just a couple of good W's. Similar competition between the two guys. They both have wins over guys like Dushko Todorovic. Always have a hard time with his name, but. And Marc-Andre Barrial for Chidi and Njokuani. I mean, I think that's ultimately who I'm going to roll with here. Gregory Rodrigues is definitely like the stronger, more muscle-bound, stout guy. They're similar in height, but Gregory Rodrigues has, a 4-inch reach disadvantage, and I think maybe that's why when I picture him, he's just a little bit more compact muscle. But he's a very strong guy, finishing Julian Marquez in the first round in his last fight. Julian Marquez, it is what it is. Entertaining guy outside of the cage. Loves hanging out with porn stars and wants to bang Miley Cyrus, so good for him. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Chidi here. I like the use of his legs. Chidi is a well-rounded kickboxer and stands a little bit more at range. Hopefully he can use that reach advantage that he has this weekend against Gregory Rodrigues. But when Gregory Rodrigues closes the distance on guys, like he is willing to just stand there and trade. So if he gets in Chidi's face this weekend and just throws shots, he does have the chance to put him out. Both really good chins on both of these guys. So I think it's going to be a really fun, entertaining stand-up war. Has the potential to end, mid-second, just from the amount of damage that these guys are going to lay out on each other. But I'm willing to go with Chidi in this one. Pat leaving some funny comments. I don't know. I mean, I watched that he said, just for anybody listening, is he the only one that rewatched RoboCop Marquez like 10,000 times? Potentially. I enjoyed it. And then Brazilian Obama. He does look like a Brazilian Obama, Gregory Rodrigues RoboCop. But yeah, I'm going to go with Chidi here. But this is one of those ones that, if these two guys stand and trade, it could go either way. A little bit of a coin flip fight, at least in my opinion. But I'm curious to hear what you have to say on this one, Tom.
Yeah, so when it goes to Chidi Njokuani, he's got speed and he's got power, and I can't emphasize speed enough. He's got very good striking and he's got good distance control. He's one of those guys that will, pop in, stick, and then move and be out. So when you don't have the speed to match with him because he's got quick reflexes and he's in and out, it's really hard for those guys who are a little bit on the slower end. His feet are never in the same place. He's got good takedown defense. He hits very, very hard. But if you can get on the inside of Chidi Njokuani and you can stop him from moving or especially attack that front leg, you could get in on his hips and take him down. And that's where, if you have a better ground game, that's where your path to victory against a guy like Chidi Njokuani is. However, Gregory Rodrigues, he's very well-rounded. He's got very clean striking. He's got solid power, and he's got very good jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. He's got good takedown D himself. He likes to keep fights standing, and he likes to slug it out. He's precise. He's got power, but he's not the fastest guy, and he's not going to overwhelm you with volume. So I think in a matchup with a guy like Chidi Njokuani, who's got speed and has power, I think it leaves Gregory Rodrigues, a guy who's typically on his feet, it leaves him open to be hit by Chidi and then not be able to land his follow-up shots because Chidi's moving around and getting out of the way. I think because both guys have power, it's going to come down to speed and precision because Gregory Rodrigues is going to be precise and slower and not throw as much. I think Chidi is, primed to get the victory in this one.
All right, yeah. Wait, you said Chidi?
Yeah, Chidi Njokuani.
Oh, okay. Because when we were talking about it before we came on, I thought you said Gregory Rodrigues. That's why when you said Chidi just now, I was a little bit surprised. But I like the super lock. Yeah, very nice. All right, let's move on up to finally the main event. We've got Corey Sandhagen versus Song Yadong. And I like this fight. I mean, I think Corey Sandhagen is going to have a very impressive victory. He's been in there with, again, like the who's who of the bantamweight division. And, his last fight was against Peter Yan for the interim belt. He fought everybody, TJ Dillashaw. And Song Yadong is a little bit more of an up-and-comer. He has shared the octagon with some impressive names as well. He's been in there with Chito Vera. That's, probably the most prominent win on his record, in my opinion, considering what Chito Vera is doing right now. But the versatility of Corey Sandhagen's striking is going to be way too much for Song Yadong. Corey Sandhagen is he's such a technical, impressive kickboxer. He has the ground game too. He can, not against guys like Aljamain Sterling, like we saw. He got choked out there, but Algeo's different. But Corey Sandhagen can hold his own on the ground. But going to be a great stand-up fight. Corey Sandhagen uses all four of his limbs just so well. Mixes things up so impressively. Body, head, leg kicks, knees to the body. And so, I just think Corey Sandhagen, it's so funny because he didn't grow up fighting. He grew up as a basketball player, and he's so versatile on his feet in the octagon. He's a true athlete when it comes down to it. And it's anybody, honestly, is going to have a hard time dealing with him. He had really great moments in all of his fights. He's such an impressive fighter, and I think it's going to be way too much for Song Yadong. Quick question again from Pat. Do you guys agree with the money line on Song Sandhagen? How would you line it differently? Is it on Tapology right now? I did not peep it.
I have Sandhagen minus 190, and that was minus 205, so now it's minus 190. So looking across the board, he's moving closer to even, and Song Yadong opening up plus 175 on DraftKings now is plus 160. NGM 165 now to 175, so a little bit of an opposite trend there. But for the most part, I see the line getting a little bit closer, Patrick, to answer your question. But if we're talking about the line, let me just kind of break into the fight and my breakdown of it a little, real quick before answering your question. Corey, he's an active guy. He's got good power, and he's tricky on the feet. He's got a good variety of types of styles he's going to use, limbs he's going to use, targets he's going to go after. He just mix it up, body, head, leg, body, head, various different things. I like his style a lot. He's athletic. He's tough. He's got good jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of people who can make really solid arguments that he beat TJ Dillashaw, and, his only then loss recently is, up against Peter Yan. And even you take the loss to TJ Dillashaw, he's the guy who's going to be fighting for the title soon. So, top level competition that Corey Sandhagen has lost to. The other one most recently is Aljamain Sterling. And he's got 2 wins, Marlon Moraes and another, the flying knee knockout of Frankie Edgar. At the end of the day, I like Song Yadong a lot, actually. He's young. He's only 24 years old. He's not even 25 at the time this fight's going to go down. He is going to be the shorter guy by 2 or 3 inches, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. He's young, but he's a good technical striker, and he's very fast. His problem is that he throws with a lot of power every single time. So after he throws, he leaves himself open for counters and takedowns. He's got good a decent to above average submission defense, but what he really thrives in is his ability to get back to his feet once he's taken down. He's really only been able to be beaten by the takedowns. And, so when I'm looking at this matchup, I'm not so sure that Corey Sandhagen would be able to take him down and hold him down as much as, Kyler Phillips did to beat him in his loss, a couple years ago. So I think Corey is well-rounded. I think he is still at the top of the division. And I think when it comes to striking, he's probably 50-50 in terms of he's probably about 50-50 when it comes to outstriking Song Yadong because of Song's power, and he throws just so hard every single time. I think Corey Sandhagen is crafty, and with the reach advantage and the experience and just time in the cage, I'm going to have to lean towards him. But when we're looking at this line at plus 160, if you're a value guy, I think there's definitely value in putting money on Yadong to get plus money when I think this fight is a lot closer. If I would line it differently, I would say maybe Corey Sandhagen minus 130, 140, and then Yadong at maybe plus 110. Slight underdog because of the age still, but ultimately, I think this fight is very close. I'm going to lean with Sandhagen because of his experience in the cage at the top level of competition. And he's just a little bit older, a little bit longer. Yadong, 24 years old. I think he can be a little bit more experienced and leave himself open for a guy who's technical like Corey Sandhagen. But really close fight, really good fight.
Yeah, I agree with your lining of it. I think what the points that you brought up as to why Sandhagen will most likely win and why we picked him is, probably what Vegas was looking at when they lined these fights or this fight in particular. And I kind of agree with it just because, Corey Sandhagen has a really good chin, and while Yadong throws really hard, the technicality of Corey Sandhagen is going to get it done this week. I think if you're looking for plus money on Corey Sandhagen to win by decision is a really solid pick. I think it'll go the distance, and if I'm not mistaken, probably Song Yadong's first 5-round fight.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think as the fight goes on, it'll be more Corey Sandhagen because, like I said, Song Yadong is throwing with everything he's got every single time. So
right.
As that gets into round 2, 3, 4, I think he's going to get a lot more tired, and that leaves openings for Corey Sandhagen. That's why I'm leaning it towards him. And when a fight I think is really close, you could go either way. All of these intangible things like experience and ability to get out of the way, reach advantage, that piles up on the side of Corey Sandhagen for me.
For sure. And I think the timing of it is going to be huge because Corey Sandhagen just went 25 minutes in both of his last 2 fights. So, that gas tank is going to be huge for him this week. Maybe, bring it a little bit closer. Instead of minus 190, it could have been minus 170. But looking forward to seeing what the decision line is going to be for Corey Sandhagen when that comes out, as we get a little bit closer. But the second that drops, I'll be in there on that, on my FanDuel app waiting for that to pop off so I can throw that in. But those are our picks for tonight. We will do our pick rundown as we always do. And I'll kick it off. I'm going to be tailing you with Prelim block. So I'm going to be taking Pat Sabatini and Trevin Giles on the prelim. That's Pat Sabatini over Damon Jackson and Trevin Giles over Louis Boser. And then for the main card, taking Bill Algeo over Andre Fili, Joseph Body Bags with a Z Pyfer over Alen Amedovski, going with Tanner Boser over Rodrigo Nascimento, going with Chidi Njokuani over Gregory Robocop Rodrigues, and I'm going with Corey Sandhagen over Yadong Song. Who do you got, Tom?
All right, so let me switch it over to me. Technical difficulties are aplenty today. Opening up on the prelims or the undercard, I'm going with Pat Sabatini to win in a battle of grapplers over Damon Jackson at 145 pounds. At 170 pounds, I'm trusting Trevin Giles to get it done over Louis Koske. We didn't talk much about it, but I like the underdog pick of Nicholas Mata over Cameron Van Camp. Cameron Van Camp just got finished a couple months ago at 170, coming down to 155. Rough. So I like Nicholas Mata. I'm taking Daniel Zellhuber over Trey Ogden. And moving up to the main card, I'm going with Bill Algeo over Andre Fili. I'm going with Joseph, like you said, Body Bags, Pyfer over Alen Amedovski. I like Rodrigo Nascimento, the bigger guy, to bully Tanner Boser to a victory. I like Chidi Njokuani, who's going to be fast and more powerful. He's going to land on Gregory Rodrigues, who's going to be too slow to counter and land back. And then I'm going with the experience and the size and the poise of Corey Sandhagen against a very young but a very game Song Yadong. Can't wait to see what that guy does at 24 years old, already ascending to the top of the 135-pound division. Going to be interesting for him to move forward, but I still think Corey Sandhagen gets it done this weekend.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us at home. And, if you're watching or listening, in post live, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe over here on YouTube as well as Spotify. It really helps us out when you do that. We're getting close. We're creeping up to a new milestone with our subscriber count. 4 away from 200. So please, please, please subscribe here on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Send it to your friends. Send it to your family. Anybody that likes the UFC and is interested in MMA in general, let them know to comment stuff, and we'll talk to them live on here. We love to interact with the chat. So follow us on Twitter, Instagram, @_PickinWinners. All that stuff is down there at the bottom, just above the ticker. Everywhere you could possibly find us. We have our personal Twitters just below our name. Just below our faces, excuse me. If you're listening on Spotify, Tom is @PickinFightsTom, and I'm @PickinKeith. Keep an eye on the rest of the channel as well. We've got the football show, Pickin' 6. We've got Pickin' Corners for lacrosse. Got a whole bunch of fun stuff going on here at Pickin' Winners. Anyways, enjoy your week. Thanks for joining us on a late Sunday night. Attack Monday hard. Be successful this week. Thanks for joining us. And Tom, thank you for being here as well, as always.
Thank you. Football's back.